In this lesson, we're going to talk about ordered pairs and relations. In algebra, we're going to be graphing relationships between two variables a lot. That's a main part of pre-algebra and then on into algebra. So a little introduction into ordered pairs and relations today. We're going to be using something called the coordinate system, or sometimes referred to as the coordinate plane, or even the coordinate grid, which is a grid system formed by two intersecting number lines that meet at right angles at their 0 points. And those two number lines have names. One of them is the x-axis, that's the horizontal number line on a graph. The y-axis is the vertical number line on a graph. And where they meet is called the origin, and that has a location of 0, 0. And we're going to use ordered pairs, which are two numbers used to locate any point on the coordinate grid. And the first number in that ordered pair is the x coordinate. It tells you where to go on the x axis. The second number in the ordered pair is the y coordinate. It tells you where to go on the y axis. And then when we plot a point or find a point on the coordinate plane, that's called graphing. So a look at the coordinate grid here, real quick, and the parts that I just explained. So we can see that we have the two number lines here. Here we have the x axis. This is the horizontal number line. And here we have the y-axis is the vertical number line. So these are the two main parts of our coordinate grid system. And then where they meet is the origin, and that is at 0, 0. So it's at 0 on both of the number lines. And then to find any point on the plane, we're going to use one of these guys right here called an ordered pair. And the first number in that ordered pair is the x coordinate, and that tells us where to go on the x-axis. And the second number is the y coordinate, tells us where to go on the y axis. So this point right here that I have graphed, that is the location of the point, because we go to 4 on the x axis, and then we go up 5 on the y axis, and then there we have our point for 5. So that's the basics of the coordinate grid and locating points on the coordinate grid. So just a lot of vocabulary there to describe our coordinate plane. So let's see if we can find these ordered pairs on the coordinate grid. So we give our ordered pairs letter names so we can identify and talk about which point we're talking about. And we're going to look for Q, which is located at 2, 3. So the 2 tells me where to go on the x-axis. So I'm going to go over 2. And then the 3 tells me where to go in the y direction. That's up 3. So there is the point Q at 2, 3. And then likewise, R is going to be located at 5, 0. So that means I'm going to go over 5 on the x-axis, and then 0 on the y-axis. So I don't go up at all. So then R is just going to live right there on the x-axis. So there's R. S is at the point 3, 1.5. So I'm going to go over 3 on the x-axis, and then up 1.5. So halfway between 1 and 2 on the y-axis, and that is where S will be. And then finally, T is at 6.5, 5.5. So I'm going to come over 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. So halfway between 6 and 7. And then I'm going to go up 5.5 in the y direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. And so T is going to be right in the middle of that grid right there. So there's point T. So that is locating and graphing points on the coordinate grid. Pretty easy to do. And now we're going to go backwards, and I'm going to give you points on the coordinate grid, and we need to find out what the ordered pair is that describes that point. So looking at point A, we are 2 units in the x direction, and we are up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the y direction. So A is located at 2, 6. B is on the x-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units over on the x-axis, and it is not up anywhere on the y-axis, so that is located at 6, 0. And then C, Again, we're not moving right at all, just moving up in the y direction. It's on the y-axis, so it is up 3 units. So that is at 0, 3. And then D is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 units on the x-axis, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 units up in the y direction. So D is located at the point 9, 4. So again, that is the coordinate grid system using the x and y axis to find points or to identify the coordinates of points on the grid. Next, we want to talk about something called a relation. Now, a relation is just simply a set of ordered pairs. So whenever you have a set of ordered pairs, that's called a relation. Nothing more, nothing less. And in that set of ordered pairs, we've got a set of x values and we've got a set of y values. And the set of the x values is called the domain, and the set of all the y values is called the range. So you can see here that I've got a set of ordered pairs 2, 3, 3, 5, and 4, 1. That is a relation. Okay, this is a relation. A set of ordered pairs is a relation. All of the x values are in red, so that is the domain. The domain here is 2, 3, and 4, and notice that they are written in braces. 2, 3, 4. We're just listing the x values in braces. Just do your best to draw those. You can see I didn't do a very good job. And all of the blue numbers are the y values, or the y coordinates. That is the range of our relation. And again, those are listed, but I disagree with the way that they're listed here. Normally, we list them least to greatest in numerical order. 1, 3, 5 would be how we would list that range. And then you can see here, this is what the same ordered pairs look like in a table. Here are all the x values, here are all the y values. And then here, lastly, is what that relation looks like on a graph. When we take those ordered pairs and plot them, 2, 3 is right here, 3, 5 is right here, and 4, 1 is right here. So ordered pairs, table, and graph. We're going to be using these representations of relations quite a bit this year. So we need to get familiar with ordered pairs, tables, and graphs. So here we have a relation. Express this relation 2, 4, 0, 3, 1, 4, and 1, 1 as a table. Then determine the domain and range. Well, to make a table, we're just going to make kind of what I call a T-chart or an XY chart, and all the ordered pairs will go in here. So here's the first one: 2, 4, 0, 3, 1, 4, and 1, 1. So there we've just simply listed them in a table, and now we want the domain. Now the domain is going to be all of the x values. Now here's something about listing the domain or the range. Again, like I said in the previous slide, we're going to put them in numerical order, least to greatest, but we only need to list them once. If a number is repeated, we don't need to repeat it when we list the domain. So the domain of this relation is 0, 1, and 2. Those are the only x values that appear or occur. Zeros, ones, and twos are the only thing that appear in the x column. And in the same way with the range, those are all of our y values. And again, we're going to list those in braces. Ooh, that was terrible. From least to greatest, 1, 3, and 4. The 4 repeats, so I don't need to list it twice. So the domain is 0, 1, and 2, and the range is 1, 3, and 4. So be careful of that when you're listing the domain and range. Here we have a relationship between square miles and acres. It says 1 square mile is equal to 640 acres. And we're asked to make a table of ordered pairs in which the x-coordinate represents the number of square miles and the y-coordinate represents the number of acres in 1, 2, and 3 square miles. So for part A, I'm going to make my table of values, and we want 1, 2, and 3 square miles. So 1 square mile is equal to 640 acres. 2 square miles would be 1,280 acres, or 2 times 640. And then 3 square miles would be 1,920 acres, or 3 times 640. Now we're asked to graph the ordered pairs and describe the graph. So I've got my grid here set up, and 1 square mile is 640 acres. So that's going to be about here. Just going to have to kind of estimate where that is. And 2 acres is 1,280. That's almost 1,300. So just under halfway between there. And 3 square miles is 1,920, just over halfway there. And then we were asked to describe the graph. Well, the graph, obviously, the number of acres increases as the number of square miles increases. So these values will increase as we go up in square miles. And you'll notice that they fall kind of in a nice straight line. Every dot falls in almost what appears to be a straight line. So I'm going to say the values increase in a straight line. And that's all I need to say to describe that graph. Okay, so the point of today, ordered pairs using the coordinate grid system, and relations, sets of ordered pairs that have a domain, which are all the x values, and a range, all of the y values.